Welcome to PETA podcast. Today we're joined by Alex Bishop-Frey, who does video content creation.
Yeah, that's right.
Videographer,
filmographer, content creator.
So we first started at PETA working with you, Alex, must have been before me, so 4 years ago?
Yeah, so I think maybe 20, I think my first video was 2017.
Oh, wow.
So approaching kind of 10 years. And then when you joined kind of after COVID, I think. And we've been doing kind of more regular work since then.
The reason we're sitting here today is it's just fascinating to see all of the facets that make up who support PETA, and we try and have a bit of a theme about the community as we talk through PETA and who we are. So I'd love to find out a little bit more about you, what you've seen in PETA's journey and how we've moved now from videoing or filming or shooting. We have these conversations because I feel quite old when I talk to you.
There's lots of synonyms.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear a bit more about your take on PETA and where we're going and what we've done.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you guys have really kind of expanded the amount of video work you're getting done, which is obviously good for me, but I'm biased.
Yeah.
I definitely had a big surge in people needing my services like over COVID because everyone kind of couldn't, especially like events, everything went online. People couldn't attend in person, so they had to kind of get a videographer in. I remember was it the first year you did the Dragon's Den event? I think that was during a COVID year, and we actually brought in kind of a live streaming for that. So I kind of was there to help with the live streaming, and now obviously it's just kind of being videoed as a little event video that goes out.
So I wonder, had we have not been through COVID, would we be videoing content which we share on social media? I wonder if we'd not gone through COVID, if we'd be, doing some of this really glitzy stuff now.
Well, I think maybe it's so. I say that there was a big boom in video production over COVID, but I'm finding now that some events have gone back to being in person.
Yeah.
They've moved away from the kind of virtual setup they had just over the pandemic. So in that regard, I've seen sort of less demand for that now that things are in person. But yeah, if you're having an event, the best way to advertise the next year's event and draw more people in is, of course, to show how good your previous event was. And I guess leading to the AZ Awards that you guys host every year, the main selling point of that is that it's kind of an award ceremony like no other. And that's something that you would obviously want to have a video or photo evidence of to kind of pull people in and get them hyped for the next year.
I mean, I wonder, I'm thinking about, so we've worked really hard to think about how we market PETA, how we move it forward, how we really engage with people. And the businesses we work with are members and community, and we try really hard to engage them to work with us long term. When we were looking at marketing, there's lots of traditional ways of marketing. I'm not sure if we weren't working with you, if we would have actually gone, I know what we're going to do. We probably would have ended up with a couple of us and a bit of a phone and trying to do a podcast. And actually what you do is really professional.
The quality aspect is something that obviously you see a good quality video and you think, oh, wow, this means something, I can get behind it. There's another conversation, which is stuff that looks like it's shot on a phone tends to look more real and less scripted. And some forms of content, like if you want to really kind of sell something, that's where you get kind of these influencers and they just record on their phone, they show themselves using a product, and that tends to sell better than if you just saw a really, really well-produced TV advert of it. Right. But yeah, I love kind of making things look great. So I'm a big proponent of kind of, we're surrounded by lights here and making everything look good. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, so it's really so we have all of our volunteers coming in talking to us about how what they're up to, what the future looks like, and it's quite intimidating for many of them. It's
intimidating for me just sitting here. I probably spent 1,000 hours behind the camera, never 1 full hour in front of it. So it's a bit daunting, and I understand it's hard coming in, and I'm sure a lot of people would just prefer to just have a phone in front of them. But this setup, it's more costly obviously to the client, and that makes more of a risk. And I think something you mentioned in the past is this has been quite a risky thing to try and kind of shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Let's kind of ramp up the video content without any promise of what kind of growth it might have. What have your challenges been in terms of trying to ramp up PETA's video production work?
You heard me talking to customers earlier today. My biggest concern, I think, when we started this is where's it going? Because there's lots of podcasts out there, there's lots of content, and what differentiates you or us from being able to deliver something that's different.
Exactly.
And
video
great.
Podcasts aren't a new thing.
No.
And, yeah.
So the biggest risk for us was just shouting into, one of my team would say, an empty vessel and just hoping somebody picks it up. I think what we've probably decided over the last few months is to really start to hone the audience we're sending that in front of, how we're doing snippets. So some people don't want to watch half an hour or 20 minutes. They want to watch, a few minutes of what we're doing. My role has really developed into reaching out to people who make decisions in business, working with people who are our members to and get this in front of them, rather than just, as I say, just shouting into investors.
That's it. Content is completely useless if you don't have an audience for it. Back in the day, when I was with my business partner, we used to do lots of kind of videos. They put it on their website or try and attempt to market it. And we come a few months later, it's got 20 views on YouTube or something. And we're like, kind of felt bad for them because they've spent all this money. So then we sort of, in our content plan we'd make for clients, we kind of, our first question would be, okay, who's it for? Because who's it for kind of guides how you even produce it. Like I said, with if you're going to get 100 times more traffic with something that's shot on an iPhone and unscripted, that's the best route. Like, we might not get as much money or have as much fun producing it, but at the end of the day, we need to make the product that's best for the outcome, really.
And I think it's really important for us to keep working with you to determine the best forum and how we make it look the best we can. So even this is our third go at this, I think, isn't it? Our third day doing this?
Yes, like yeah. But even before this, I said, it's going to be way easier and more efficient, and you could record loads more content if we just had the microphones and none of this other video stuff. So I said, are you sure you kind of want to commit to kind of the big portion when a lot of your listeners might just be in the car? And I think over time we'll see kind of, you'll get feedback as to what your viewership is. And go from there, really, yeah.
Yeah, and so we've developed this. Even over those 3 times, you can see the difference in the podcast from the first time to now.
Exactly.
You can see the difference. Yeah. But what we don't want to do is lose what makes PETA really credible, because we've been around for a long time, and many of our customers really understand it's PETA's reputation. It's not just the person who's running it, it's PETA's reputation. It's making sure it's a quality delivery, and what we don't want is something that doesn't feel
on brand, I guess.
On brand, and really, as I say, quality. We do things the right way here.
Yeah.
And take our time and do it properly, and that's what we try to achieve with this. So, but you make us all look much better than in person.
Yeah, I mean, interesting you say, because you joined PETA, was it 3 or 4 years ago?
Just over 3 years ago.
Yeah. So, what kind of changes have you seen over the 3 years you've been here?
What have I seen? Really interestingly, the team are committed to the foundation of PETA, and I think that's really important. So whatever we develop, we're doing new, innovate, and we talk about that, about innovation and progression, but not to the detriment of our foundation. So you've asked me what I've seen. What I've seen is people holding firm to what's right for our customers and our businesses. That's really important, and compliance. That enables us to innovate, because if you haven't got that foundation, then you can't innovate. So what we have started to do is digitalising a lot of things. So this is an example of how we've changed the way we market. We don't print flyers anymore. It's those types of things that we were still printing lots and lots of flyers, even 3 years ago. More impactfully, we have course content now that is digital, so it's emailed to people, or they access it through an LMS system. What we're not doing is having teams of people printing folders of coursework. So it's not only the paper, it's the person printing it, and then we've all been on courses where we go, that was great, and then we shove it on the top somewhere, and then a year later we go, I haven't looked at that again since.
Yeah, but I know, you've mentioned there's a balance between how much you digitise, because you've said over COVID you've trialled virtual learning, but actually everyone really loves learning in person, especially for courses that are hands-on. You really need to be.
We do.
In a sense
so the businesses will always say they want us to work hands-on. They'll 100% say that. The younger learners or the delegates like content that is bite-sized. When they're here or when they're face-to-face, they want to be able to apply it.
Yeah.
So there is a disconnect sometimes between what a business wants them face-to-face and the delegates who want the content, and then they want to have the time in the classroom or with colleagues working out how to apply it, talking about real scenarios. So there's a shift. It may not be virtual versus face-to-face. It's about how to learn, and how to learn in bite-sized chunks. And many of our apprentices in engineering, when I talk to them, will say to me, I want to be able to I just want the YouTube video. Give me the PowerPoint. I can read the PowerPoint. They want to have a conversation about how to apply it.
Yeah, or these are people who are confident that they can self-learn, because I know kind of moving from school where everything's spoon-fed to you to an environment where it's a lot more independent. I know a lot of my friends, when they went to uni, struggled with that, where suddenly you have oodles of free time and that's study time. It's meant to be study time, and yet a lot of people kind of just see that as free time. Exactly.
Yeah. I think the difference is here is we have, so the majority of apprentices have 1 day a week that they're learning. They have 4 days on average in the workplace. They haven't got free time. They've got a day to learn, and then they've got 4 days to apply it. And the businesses want to get as much as possible, and they want to have as much impact as possible in that time. And the learners, the apprentices, also want to add value. So they don't have that free time. So it's really interesting. It focuses the mind, doesn't it? When you haven't got truckloads of free time, it definitely focuses your mind a bit on what you need to achieve by when.
I wish that apprenticeships were pushed more, when I was at school, because a lot of people just went to uni. I survived 3 weeks at uni before, doing a film degree before ultimately dropping out because I was getting work in. And my reasoning for dropping out was, if I'm going to university in order to get a job, but these jobs are already coming in, then what do I need the kind of degree for? But like you said, an apprenticeship, a lot of feedback you've got has been, I've learned something on Monday and I've been able to apply it on the Tuesday, like the next day, and it's made my job kind of open up so much more.
You will hear me talk about apprenticeships. I'm clearly a massive advocate. I've worked in apprenticeships 26 years. Why wouldn't you work and apply it? Unfortunately, there's still a number of roles that you can't get an apprenticeship in, or
you need a degree for. Exactly.
And so
most of the academic.
Yeah, but it's a time and a place and the right thing, and for the right person. So, you could take a room full of 30 young people who've just done their GCSEs or their A-levels, for example. They are all different. And even though those 30 might be in the same school, that school might not have been right for all of them because they're all just different. And what's great about apprenticeships is it's about starting points and meeting them where they start. And so whilst we have a curriculum that they work towards, because they're coached in the workplace, it's everybody's journey is unique to that person. What's wrong? What more could you ask for, really?
Yeah. I was interested in what you think about culture shift, because obviously I've never really stepped foot in any kind of corporate role.
Yeah.
But you've got kind of young apprentices moving in, replacing aging workforces. Yeah. Are you seeing some kind of big shift generally in workplace culture?
We predominantly support engineering apprentices. That's our largest cohort. And so I think workplace culture in engineering environments probably hasn't shifted as much, in that there's still very much a clock in, clock out. They start at a certain time, they finish, it's usually 7:30 till 3 or something like that. There's a very, very traditional way of working. When they're in the workplace, it's different. So when they're in the workplace, they have... So health and safety has, improved massively. If we're talking about when PETA was first set up, and the legislation now, language. If we're talking about culture, we could nod towards the considerate construction type. When I started in apprenticeships 26 years ago, I started in hospitality, and I ended up walking into chefs' offices and asking them to take down the page 3 girl or calendar off the, So actually, in very recent history, the culture and how to manage and support and work with young people has changed massively. I remember when safeguarding legislation came in, and I couldn't understand. I was quite shocked that we've got to look after them. Isn't that the state's job? And then suddenly, as you start working through, and that was probably 20, 25 years ago, starting to think about, wow, we've got a real responsibility to these young people, and how do we support the businesses in supporting those young people? That shifted massively.
Because these must be changes that businesses are taking on young people, and yes, it's very nice to inject new blood and stuff, but there must be some kind of concepts that some businesses must have kind of stagnated, or either they're set in their ways.
So I would love, and I'd love to. I'm trying, and the team and I here are working to create a workforce for the future. The world shifts massively. So if we spoke to somebody who'd been in engineering for 40 years, and what they did 40 years ago and what they do now would be vast. Yeah. But the foundations are still really important. So how do we teach the foundations and the behaviours and help them to make sure that as the world shifts, they can shift as well. And
Yeah, so being, like you said, kind of a lifetime of learning
Yeah.
that you're setting them up for.
Yeah.
I've worked in sort of design agencies where, it's like a big kind of open kind of bullpen office, and there's sort of like light drum and bass music playing in the background, and everyone's laughing. There's about 5 office dogs in. Everyone's wearing sort of shorts and t-shirts in the summer, and everyone kind of goes out for like a 3-hour lunch, and that's an insane world compared to kind of like you say engineering, where it's very
and there's safety that needs to be considered. Even here, it was raised, so we have an employee forum like most good companies do, and we get feedback. I was asked if we could have a bring your dog to work day, which I don't fundamentally have an issue with. What I do have an issue with is when the dogs don't get on. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly. And luckily this we never had an issue, but again, it's like if you build a good workplace that people want to work, I guess that does wonders for kind of employee retention and possibly productivity as well.
Yeah.
If you're allowed for them to work the way it works for them, rather than being forced to this kind of one size fits all that was probably applied previously.
Yeah, I'm a massive believer in, to get the best out of people, they need to feel comfortable, need to be themselves and be able to be creative and develop what they need to develop. It's really interesting. I think we're now in, 2026 in the spring. When I joined back in late 22, early 23, we were out the end of the pandemic and there were jobs everywhere for lots of people being paid really well. And so I had to work out how to make sure that this was the best place to work. So we did lots of things like put daylight bulbs in the engineering centre because there aren't windows. We changed the dress code. We looked at agile working. We worked out how we can support people to be the best they can be. We looked at different breaks because some of the instructors, we needed to give them longer breaks and more downtime, or how to catch up with marking, bring in AI so the marking isn't such a slog.
Yeah.
So we did lots of things like that. Interestingly, I always talk about the pendulum, as pendulum swings back and there's less jobs now, we still need to support our workforce and make sure that they're being looked after and cared for. But they're not as demanding now, because I think there isn't just that influx of jobs out there. Now, we still prioritise our workforce. We still, of course, want to make sure that we're inclusive and we look after their well-being. We've got mental health first aiders and all the things that we aspire to keep trying to be better. But the external market has such an impact on how people behave. It's quite stark.
Yeah, and I mean, everything's kind of driven by profit at the end of the day. But I think, and like you say, it's an investment to kind of maybe put profit to one side and take care of your workforce. But I think a lot of people find that you take care of your workforce, you put that investment in, and that'll actually pay back way more over the...
So we're really lucky here because we don't have profit, we have surplus.
Yes.
Anything we make goes back into the business. So that's a really sobering thought. So what we're doing now is going, right, okay, so we've got this, we're bringing this income in from our learning activity, and we're working out how to invest it to support more people. That's a much nicer way of looking at it, because suddenly it feels really, really purposeful. So we've been able to invest in new systems to speed up the back office process. We've invested in Luminate by PETA. We've spoken today about the knowledge transfer partnership, which is an investment for us to begin to work with businesses. So for me, it's not about profit. It's about being able to do what we need to do to support the local businesses.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ali.
Yeah, thank you for having me.